Good evening, everyone. I will be representing Group 11 for Dhabol Power Project. Uh, this Dhabol Power Project was in Maharashtra. Dhabol is a place in Maharashtra, and it required a power project. So, Ernon Corporation provides services in natural gas industry. So, Ernon Development Corporation is a part of Ernon Corporation, which takes projects in Asia for power sector, focused on satisfying infrastructure and energy needs in emerging economies by developing power plants and providing electricity. So, Central Government Power Secretary S. Rajgopal in May 1992 visited Washington DC to encourage foreign participation, where this Enron Corporation got an idea for building a power plant in power plant in India, which was by our central government channelized to a power plant in Maharashtra. So Enron proposed to build own and operate a power station that would provide 2015 megawatts of power in Dhabol, Maharashtra. So how EDC previously do's project was, they actually all projects were project financed and had long-term contracts with pricing agreed upon in advance. The creditworthiness of the power purchaser was evaluated carefully. Revenues were tied to US dollars so that the fluctuation in economy of the country in which they are working does not matter. Political risks were mitigated and project financing was provided by multilateral lending institutions. So this is how the EDC actually used to do projects in many developing nations. So, and a little about Dhabol project. It was the largest natural gas-fired combined cycle power generation project in the world. The financing of the power plant, first 695 megawatt was completed in year 1995, and the construction of 920 million facility has commenced with commercial operation to begin by the 1997. This was mentioned in the case study. So Enron expected to offer 50% interest in first place of the project to another Enron division, Enron Global Power and Pipelines, when the project reaches commercial operation. There was a joint venture had 20-year agreement for power purchase with the government of Maharashtra for both first and second phase of project. And LNG actually, the Enron Corporation was not sure that India's coal and petroleum reserves will power this project, were enough for powering the project. So they have signed a contract with the Qatari government for bringing this LNG supply. Now this is the project structure. Enron Power Corporation, Bechtel and General Electrical were the stakeholders in this. It was a joint venture in which Enron Power Corp has the major equity, and the lenders were major Bank of America and other banks, and the client was Maharashtra State Electricity Board and the power consumers were there. Now, what were the problems with central and state electricity boards? They were unable to meet the shortages in power sector because of insolvency, and huge losses stemmed primarily from a pricing policy that granted subsidies to rural consumers. So, for the data for agricultural sector, we have like 29% the agriculture sector used electricity, and they contributed only 4.7% of the total revenue. The transmission and distribution losses were averaging around 22%, and the major reasons were old equipment, few substations, poor quality cables, and widespread theft of power. Now this all contributed to the need of reform. Power generation and distribution were largely a state government responsibility, and also IMF has served notice that no more money will be given for forthcoming projects until Indian economy was reformed thoroughly. So they have stopped all the funding. Narasimha Rao was elected as Prime Minister in 1991 from Congress, and then he encouraged private and foreign investment in all industrial sectors, and many requirements for industrial license were abolished. So coming about what actually reforms were, economic reforms by Prime Minister Narasimha Rao, who was like from Congress. In 1992, two electricity acts were amended to create a new legal, administrative and financial environment. Invitations to private sector were there, allowing companies to have a debt equity ratios for of up to 4:1 to finance new projects, permitting a rate of return up to 16%. That was quite high considering Indian infrastructure rate of return, allowing foreign investors to repatriate dividends entirely in dollars, and permitting capitalization of interest during this construction period. So these reforms actually match with the risk mitigation strategies we already seen by Arnon Corp. So they were interested in the project. Generating companies could sell power on basis of two tariffs. One is the fixed cost and one is the variable expense. Investor could raise up to 20% of total outlay through public issues. Import of equipment for power projects were permitted if foreign suppliers or agencies extended concessional credit. IPC cell was created to provide a single window for clearance of all the power projects, and in addition the Foreign Investment Promotion Board was created and specialized authorized to negotiate and approve foreign investment. So this reform actually brought a lot of private players interested in Indian projects. So now the change of government, like groundwork of the Arnon project has already been done in the previous state government. The government of Maharashtra finance secretary raised 5 points concerned about this project going on. The government of Maharashtra guarantees, capital cost comparisons, rate of returns, the escalation factor and the exchange rate variation. So the Arnon Corp responded to each concern during intense negotiation. For example, the rate of return issue was mentioned in the case study and its final resolution. When the government officials asked Arnon Corp to reduce the rate of return to 20%, actually the rate of return was expected to 16%, but they still gave 20%. Arnon Corp was like, no, we will not do the project in such low rate of return, and it is not feasible for us, and they were like okay to walk out. But then with too much of negotiations, Arnon Corp lowered the rate of return from 26.5 to, actually Arnon Corp asked 26.5 to 25.22, and to consider giving MSEB 10% permanent equity ownership. So like this example, all the other factors were like solved, and the project was then commenced. There was a speculation that in 1996 Congress will get out of power, which eventually happened, and BJP leaders were known to oppose for foreign investment in consumer goods. Thank you.
So thank you. That was a good, very detailed statement on the case, right? And we are at we stopped the case at a very interesting point, right, where clearly, and we know in hindsight that the next elections the BJP came to power and all of that. Now, from Enron's perspective, up until this point, what were the risks that they had identified, and how well had they mitigated those risks? What are the risks that Enron saw, and how did they mitigate those risks? The question is, what were the risks that they saw, and what did they do to mitigate it? So one of the risks clearly in this case is demand risk. What did Enron do to mitigate demand risk? So first of all, they had a power purchase agreement, right, with the state of Maharashtra. Okay, so that was one way in which they helped sort of somehow subvert the demand risk, right, because they said, look, there's a guaranteed offtake. They had flexible, fixed, variable, etc. What else did they do? What do they do about exchange rate fluctuation? So essentially, who bore the exchange rate risks? The exchange rate risks were borne by by India, right, essentially. So exchange rate risks, those were given to government of India. Okay, what else did they do in terms of looking at a risk and trying to do something about it? Okay, so they had all of these guarantees. Okay, what does the guarantee protect against? So if the MSEB couldn't pay, government of Maharashtra would step in. Okay, so on the one hand, it affects an economic risk. Okay, any other risks that the guarantee affects? So who all are guaranteeing this project? Government of India, right? Why government of India? You already have government of Maharashtra, who is going to guarantee in case MSEB defaults. they're going to pay you. Why do you want government of India in there? So, because essentially there is a political risk as well, right? They might lose the election, new party might come in and they might do what we call the, exercise what we call the obsolescing bargain, right? Which essentially says, look, in the beginning, I have no money, I have no expertise, I call a private player in, but once they actually build that facility, once they invest their money and build their facility, they can't take it away from them. So if I kick them out, citing some kind of sovereign responsibility, then what is the recourse to the private player? So that's called the obsolescing bargain. In the beginning, it's a great bargain for me to have you come in, right? After a period of time, it's no longer a great bargain. I already have the asset with me. I can kick you out, right? So to protect against that, there are guarantees at the central government level as well. Okay. Technical risks. What have they done with technical risks? So yeah, so they've got technical risks. They've got GE and Bechtel. So they've got the who's who of construction. So that construction risks are going to be minimized. Okay, fantastic. Okay, what else have they done? Okay, so that's at the end of 20 years. Okay, so there's a clause in the power purchase agreement on what happens at the end of 20 years. But it's a little bit more, say, throughout the duration of the project. What else have they done? All of these are good points. Okay, so power secretary backing. Okay. All right. What about environmental risk? What do they do about it? Okay. Extensively lobby government. Extensive lobby for environmental risks. Okay. What else? Yeah. Let's go. Let's first get not only importing fuel, but the technological choice of LNG, right, was essentially because they had options. It could have been coal, it could have been naphtha, it could have been LNG. Right, Indian coal is not of high calorific value. There are issues with the other source with the sort of natural gas and so on. And so they decided to sort of look at LNG. And you have this is on the western coast, and the Middle Eastern countries, which are not too far away, have wonderful reserves of LNG, and therefore your supply risk, etc., are being so managed. Okay, so LNG, great. Any other risks that you saw that Enron has dealt with? So along those lines, what was the total capacity of the plant? 2000 megawatts, right? And that was sort of somewhat dictated by the fact that they were using LNG, because they had these things called LNG trains or whatever. So you had a certain amount that you had to buy. Plant sizes were so much. Did they build one 2000 megawatt power plant? Right? So they built in two phases, right? Is there a risk mitigation strategy in that? Right? So clearly, again, the obsolescing bargain theory can be combated. If I build all 2000 megawatts, I can get kicked out quite easily. If I build, I don't know what, 695 or whatever it is, and then have a second phase, then clearly the government will continue to, transact with me up until a later point in time, right? And therefore, I prevent the government reneging on its deal very early, right? So again, that phasing was another risk mitigation measure, right? What about choosing Maharashtra? Why was Maharashtra chosen? Why not Tamil Nadu? Right? Well, not only was Maharashtra more economically stable, I mean many other states are, but what was special about Maharashtra? Well, coastline, but there are Gujarat, why not? Gujarat's got a pretty good, Bombay is the commercial capital, but so what, right? Power is power, people will buy power anywhere. Yeah, let's sort of wait, let's so the key point is there were only a couple of states, right, that actually had state electricity boards that were not running at losses. I think Karnataka might have been the other one at the time, right? So Karnataka and Maharashtra, all the other state electricity boards, and we've talked about this earlier in this class, are running at a loss, right? Because you subsidize power to farmers, and therefore, you get very little income into from your power consumers. You don't have enough money to pay your own operations maintenance. Where are you going to get money to pay back? Right, the only two electricity, and of course there are a number of reforms in the power sector, but at the time the two electricity boards that were actually financially solvent were Maharashtra and Karnataka. Maharashtra is also on the west coast, etc., Bombay. Because of that, so one of the reasons of picking Maharashtra itself is a risk mitigation measure, right? You talked about how do I've got a power purchase agreement, but how do I ensure? Yes, I've got some guarantee by government of Maharashtra, but a better way of ensuring is I've gone with somebody who is most likely to be able to pay me, right? So that again is another risk mitigation mechanism that they've looked at, right? And what can you say about the rate of return that they're expecting? 26%, 26.52%, whatever, right? So because that's so high, what does that mean? Right? The risk is high, but they're buffering that by expecting such a high return on the project. All right, so that even if a few risks actually become enacted and their rate of the actual return falls, it's still going to be at a level which is going to be pretty profitable to the company. So another way of actually hedging these risks is actually coming up with a rate of return that according to them combats the risk. So they see all of these risks, and therefore they also have a higher rate of return on their investment that they've put into their financial model, right, which they refuse to really back down from, right, Varun, as you were presenting. Okay, so the point is, this is India is set for privatization of power. We need power, as was pointed out. We've changed the rules, we've liberalized, we've allowed private power purchasers to come in, but it's still an untested market, right? So Enron comes in and they seem to make a bunch of smart choices. They pick Maharashtra. Okay, that seems to be a smart choice, right? They sign a take or pay agreement with Maharashtra. That seems to be a smart choice. Okay, they seem to get these guarantees. That seems to be a smart choice. Okay, they go in for LNG as a technical choice. Smart choice, right? Two-phase project, right? Again, a smart choice. Right, all of this. So when I look at it in totality, Enron seems to have made a bunch of smart choices, and they seem to have signed a contract which has a lot of these ideas in it, right? So Enron picks a state with a fairly good power sector. The state board is profitable. There is demand. The location is close to a port. Number of baskets are ticked, right? Somebody says they enter through bureaucrats, civil servants, etc. Risk mitigation through the contract. We've talked about all of this: power purchase agreement, exchange rate risk, political risk. They had this international arbitration clause, sovereign guarantees. You talked about it, project risk, right? So it looks like they've really thought this project through. All right. So it's actually, so even though we know that the government might change and this and that, they've really thought the project through. And in fact, when this case is taught at the Stanford Law School, in some cases, it's taught as, here's the perfect contract, right? They've really thought through everything and they've signed the perfect contract. All right. Okay. So the question is Enron's strategy good? I don't know. Seems good. Is Dabhol a good project of Enron? Possibly. For India, for Maharashtra? Possibly. Right. But what happens? Right. The BJP comes to power, and first of all, there's a lot of nationalistic noise. I think, Varun had already said, Mr. L.K. Advani points out we will not be dictated by foreign power giants, etc. Varun already pointed out that they were less likely to be supportive of private investment in consumer goods, right? And therefore, a committee now prepares a report on the DPC, and this echoes some of the comments that the finance minister had raised earlier, right? And as a result of these of what came out, and I'll show you what the committee just said, right? The project was cancelled in August 1995. Why were the reasons for cancellation? The committee said, where was the bidding? Right? You just had Enron come and build a power plant for you. How do you know that this is the most optimal price at which you are getting the power plant? Shouldn't there have been competitive bidding? Where was the competitive bidding? Right? This project was fast tracked. Right? A bunch of clearances were ignored. What was the reason? Right? If this project can be fast tracked, every other infrastructure project should also be fast tracked. Right? Yes, power is vital, but so is transport, so is water. Why give a damn for environmental clearances anywhere? There's a pun on the word damn, if you didn't catch that. Okay, so yeah, so why sort of ignore that, right? And look at the cost of the project. Somebody does a report and say, if you look at the total cost and the power generated, it's costing 4.49 crore per megawatt, right? Everywhere else, comparable projects seem to be costing 3.6 crores a megawatt, right? Which means Enron is giving me power at, I don't know, 2.4 rupees a kilowatt hour or whatever, but that's because it's so expensive. If it was built cheaper, like everyone else is doing, you might only need to charge me 1.7, 1.8. Right? So why was this not caught somewhere? And this was not caught because there was no competition, right? Had there been a competitive bid, these guys would have been forced to put down their prices, and therefore tariffs are too high. The actual tariffs will really be 5 rupees a kilowatt hour, right? Is what somebody said. And all these environmental concerns, yes, there was lobbying, etc. done, but World Bank prepared a report. None of those concerns were addressed, right? So essentially, the incumbent government pointed out, and if you recall, the finance minister at the time also had some similar objections. Right? So all of these objections were pointed out, and they said, look, we are going to cancel the project, right? And indeed the project was cancelled. So one moment you go from perfect contract, right, to crash and burn, right? Projects cancelled. Okay, so we've got to think about why that is. So what would you do if you are Enron? If you are Rebecca Mark, what would you do? So you can bring in the international arbitration clause. Perfect. So Enron goes to international arbitration, right? What happens simultaneously? So first of all, Narasimha Rao says, look, the agreement is between Enron and Maharashtra government. I sort of stepped in, but I'm not really enforcing my counter guarantee, right? Simultaneously, the government goes to the the Mumbai High Court, right, and says, what is the validity of international arbitration? This is a project that is being done on Indian soil, right? And in any case, what we do in an international court is not valid here, right? Is their argument, right? So then, so what do you now do if you're Enron, right? Your international arbitration, they might award in your favor, right? But essentially Mumbai High Court says, don't worry, you don't have to implement anything that they say. Okay, so what do you do if you're Rebecca Mark? You take the next flight to Mumbai. Take the next flight to Mumbai and you come in and say, let's negotiate, right? It's in neither of our interests for this project. You need power at the end of the day, right? We've already invested in the project. Fine, you have some concerns, let's figure it out, okay? So panel of experts reviews the project and they have a revised proposal that they prepare, which is accepted, right? So now they say in the old contract, the power was 2.04 per 2.4 per kilowatt hour. Here now it's reduced to 2.03 and then successively to 1.84. Capital costs are reduced. Maharashtra State Electricity Board now gets a stake in the project, right? So lots of design optimization. You say you also use locally available naphtha, right? And you instead, so it brings your cost down a little bit. You don't have to export everything from the Middle East. Enron agrees to manage this, these risks, right? And so essentially, when of course the story sort of continues, people still say, look, the take or pay clause has still not changed. Currency risks are still being borne by the government. Price is still high, right? Comparatively, yes, it's lower, but still high. And LNG still needs to be imported. There are price volatility risks. I mean, yeah, you've done a few things, but you've not done enough, right? I mean, this should be a much better project for the Indian conditions, right? So, and then phase 2 is in progress. MSCB defaulted on a payment, counter guarantees didn't work, arbitration, but we all know what happens to arbitration, and Enron essentially ended up pulling out of the project at some point, right? That last part is not as important, right? The point was, Enron seems to have thought through everything, right? This whole thing was, where's that slide where we had a bunch of stuff scribbled on the slide? So a bunch of stuff they've thought through. Where did they go wrong? They seem to have thought through economic risk. They seem to have thought through political risk. They seem to have thought through, all of these kinds of things, technological risk. What more could they have done? Or is it thus that we are such a, difficult country to work in that projects are just doomed? Yeah, Harsh. Maybe dispute settlement. Okay. Yeah, Parthik. So social risks not mitigated. What could they have done? So one of the things was, how transparent was Enron, right? So if you are an Indian citizen or if you are, an elected representative of the BJP or whatever, right? How much transparency do you have in this process, right? Who is, and first there was no competitive bidding, right? These guys all hush hush, they go and meet some Rajagopal, right? And so, and there is some agreement between the center and the state. Suddenly a project comes in, there's a tariff, there's no justification for that tariff. Throughout this entire process, nobody even knows who's the face of Enron, right? So what do you think? Sometimes when you look at these arrangements, it's not as if Enron is trying to be corrupt, but you look at these engagements, you say there's some underhand deal that's been cut by these guys, right? So the moment you sort of have this kind of an aura around it, you always suspect that something hanky-panky is going on. This guy went to Delhi, he must have done something there, and that's why he got awarded this project, which actually was probably the opposite of what really happened. I think Enron did not want to go out and show itself shaking hands with people and all of that because they thought that might be perceived as corruption, right? The moment I go shaking hands with various politicians, people are probably going to think I'm corrupt. Let me just work I'm going to make an offer. The Indian government has accepted my offer. We have a contract that's signed. So in some sense, Enron probably thought that it was acting in a manner that would provide an image of fairness. But actually, when you look at it from the outside and you see a very opaque tendering process, some secretary involved somewhere, some agreement signed, then you start thinking, look, was this a fair process after all, right? So it essentially underscores the value of being transparent and needing to consult the public. Maybe you have a reason for power being 2.4 rupees a kilowatt hour, and this is where you have to contrast it with what we learnt in Alandur, right? Where I actually open out the financials to you so that, if you can reduce it, if you can't, maybe there's a reason, right, for why we want power at 2.4 rupees a kilowatt. Maybe that's still economically beneficial, right? Maybe the 3.6 crores per megawatt is because of other factors, right, that are not applicable in this project, right? So who knows? You have to really be transparent in your data. And I think a big issue in this project is that Enron did a lot of things, but the one thing they did not do was invest enough in transparency, right? And therefore, when a new government came in, they looked at it and said, oh, there's a completely opaque agreement that these guys signed with the previous government. When I look at some of the metrics, they seem to be extremely high. This cannot run, right? Let's throw these guys out. And essentially what happened was, while in some ways you're justified in throwing Enron out, it also had all kinds of repercussions, right? So I met somebody in Washington DC who said, was a manager of a large fund, I think it was called the Emerging Markets Partnership, who essentially said, I won't touch India with a 100-foot barge pole, right? Because how do I know that my investment will not meet the same fate that Enron does. It's such an unpredictable country, right? And therefore, we've also paid the penalty for a period of time because investor confidence dipped, right? And so, in many ways, it was a lose-lose kind of scenario. All right. So, let me go back to my first slide, right? How do you protect yourself against? So, you've got two different examples of political risk, right? In the Enron case, you have a government that can come in and throw out the project. In the Chad Cameroon case, you've got a government that can misuse what's coming out of the project, right? And you've got to think about how do you deal with those risks, right? Like I said, in the first case, maybe ExxonMobil wasn't really concerned about the government misusing as long as they made their money, but the World Bank was, right? In this case, Enron was concerned about what the government's response should be, right? So, of course, the simple answer is don't even go there, right? Choose projects with low socio-political risks, right? Another strategy is, don't put in too much of your own equity into these kinds of projects, right? Because you're likely to lose a lot. So, take more debt, right? And therefore, bring in more stakeholders for risk, right? Can you have flexible, politically correct kind of contracts? We won't get in there. Can you use local and foreign partners, right? Can you have local partners as well who can lobby for you, right, in these kinds of cases? Okay, rather than just you as an international firm coming in, what about a joint venture with, say, Reliance, for instance, right? Maybe that might have helped so to overcome some of these risks, right? Or similarly, there are probably some large private consortia in Chad or Cameroon anyway, right? So should they be part of the project? Of course, you can take insurance, you can take government guarantees, but transparency, I think this is critical. Right, political risk, there needs to be transparency on all sides, on the side of the government, on the side of the private party. If not, you are setting yourself up for being captured by a political risk event. Yeah, Rishi. Oh, could even be, see, political risk okay, both of our cases somewhat coincidentally involved foreign investment, but political risks can happen otherwise as well. Even within the country, you've had changes of government and, concessions being cancelled and all of that. So, it doesn't have anything to do only with foreign investment. Right. So, it's something, but I think transparency is very, very important because at least then you might have a chance of having the people on your side, right, of people saying, look, this is the right project and therefore you can't throw this project out, right. Whereas here, essentially people seem to be, elected officials seem to be acting for the people, saying, look, I'm getting you out of a big hole that the previous government dug you into, okay. So, transparency, you need a strong regulator or a strong judicial system could help, right, but again, those are factors outside your control. Right. It's easy to say, I would like a strong and transparent judiciary. It's not going to happen overnight, right? True, I think, and then it comes down to what do you mean by transparency. But essentially, I think, and we'll come back to this again, I think this is essentially what we're talking about is more transparency with respect to stakeholders, right, which could mean the general public as well, right? So, if, for example, just like we saw in Alandur, if Enron also had been able to convince the people about the benefits of the project, right, perhaps the outcome might have been different. Perhaps a newly elected government might have found it difficult to just cancel the project if there is a large sentiment that the project is beneficial, right. Or having discussed a little bit more transparently up ahead, maybe the project parameters could have been changed. See, a 26% return on investment, 26.5% does seem abnormally high. Right, particularly for a country like India where we are not like Chad or Cameroon, right. I don't think you can equate the kinds of risks in India to those kinds of risks. So, 26% does seem to be extraordinarily high. Maybe that's because, you fear what you don't know. You've never come to India before and therefore you price all these risks in. Maybe by having more transparent discussions, by understanding the supply chain, the regulatory environment, right, by understanding the decisions that are made, etc., maybe you could have actually lowered that risk. Right, or you could have lowered your perception of that risk, or you could have done something to lower that risk. As a result of which your tariffs could have come down. Right, in order for me to make 26.5%, I need a tariff of 2.4. Right, if my expectation was lower, maybe my tariff would be lower as well. Right, and therefore maybe by being more consultative, right, maybe the word is not so much transparent but consultative. Right, and maybe by opening yourself up to a more transparent selection criteria, you might have discovered ways of managing certain risks which you could have brought down your expectation of return, brought down your costs, right, and also therefore allowed you to convince people that this was actually a viable project. Now, whether it would still have been viable, whether costs would have been brought down, whether Enron would have been willing, all of these are moot points, right, because we can't go and recreate history, right, but clearly they did a lot of thinking from their perspective. They assumed that a watertight contract would hold, right, but essentially what happens is you've got to think beyond your perspective, right, the project has to be fair universally. You can't say I'm bearing a risk, I need 26.5%, I'm happy with sticking you with 2.5 rupees a kilowatt, right, so that doesn't work. Secondly, you can't just hide behind these contracts and say the law will protect me, right? Because contracts are made by people, they're enforced by governments, by courts, etc. And these can be interpreted in various ways. And essentially, the BJP's view here was, yes, it was a good contract, but it's an unfair contract, right? And therefore, why should I, as an elected government, continue to enforce an unfair contract, right? And therefore, you can't just hide behind the fact that somebody has signed and therefore nobody can go back on this. That's just sort of impractical, which means you have to really start talking to people, understand risks, managing them, mitigating them, which these guys did not do effectively, right? So the moral of the story is political risks exist. Political risks can destroy projects. It's very difficult to deal with political risks, but there are certain steps that you can take, right? Whether you're working in Chad or whether you're working in Mumbai or Chennai or wherever, to mitigate these political risks. And it's important to think about that as you go through infrastructure projects, not be naive and say, I've got a contract, I've brought the World Bank on, political risks have disappeared.